For more on this, we're joined now by Congolese journalist Alain Oyakanye. Alain, a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. As you heard from my colleague there about the attacks, what have you heard the latest? Has there been any more casualties, any more attacks since those ones?
Thank you very much for having me this evening. The situation is still very tense. We have been living in this situation since like a decade right now, but we have to mention that since last year, the situation has really increased with sporadic attack, as you mentioned in your introduction, on different IDPs in this area. This is the first time we have been experiencing this militia to attack the IDPs. We know very well that they have been in conflict for years right now, as mentioned, your correspondent from Kinshasa City. But to be honest, this conflict is taking now another level with the attack that we have been reported from different IDPs. We have to mention that from last year up to now, we have the Ituri province, even though the martial law is underway, but the authorities or even people who are running the ITPs, they have registered like 5 to 6 attacks against the IDPs, with more than 50 people being killed inside the IDP. And also we have experienced, for example, we have witnessed the attack against the military position. This militia, they have increased their level of attacks. They are no longer running out of the DRC army, but they are the one attacking DRC army. They are even looking for their position for launching sporadic attack on different DRC military position, including the civilian. This is the situation we have been really living in here in the area.
And just tell us a little bit more of what it's like for residents of the Jugu territory there of Ituri. As you've mentioned, it's been more than a decade of conflict, and we have been seeing it year by year, almost month by month, escalated. What is it like, and is there anything in particular that is fueling the upscale in the unrest?
This situation has been almost like a big challenge for the authorities right here with this conflict since Sego Primary School up to now. We have been living with this situation between Hema and Lindus. We have, first of all, to understand that Jugu, it's only composed with these two group of people living here, like Hema, those the elders, as mentioned, the correspondent, and also the farmers' Lindus. The farmers' Lindus, they are a little bit like a majority in terms of population who are living in this area, and they are right now. Since colonial time, they have been claiming for being evaded by those elders, Hema, that they are considering like evaders. But we have during Mobutu time, for example, Mobutu was one of the presidents who did not, the former president of the Zaire time, he was very tough with the ethnic conflict issues. But we have seen during the arrival of Kabila, Laurent Desire Kabila, with his troops from the eastern DRC, we have seen the increase with the weapon, as everybody could easily access to the weapon. The conflict has jumped the group conflict. This is what you will remember, that this is one of the first conflict which dropped the first case in the ICC, on which we have seen people like Thomas Lubanga considered like a leader of Hema, with other people, so from other leaders from Lendu side, after the killing of more than 100 people between 2001 to 2006, according to UN. We have seen massacre in this town of Bunia, with the government of DRC was even obliged to call upon the France government to send, for example, special forces And also this area, because of this conflict between these two groups, we have seen a huge number of UN troops fighting in this area for years, like South African troops. We have also Bangladesh and different for a long period. This was one of the big headquarters of UN trying to deal with this situation, but it has been a very difficult situation, even for the international community and the local community. And what we are trying to see right now, it seems we are going back to the situation of 2001, 2003, 2004, where most of people were killed. Because right now, as I'm talking to you right now, one of the big leaders of this HEMA group that I mentioned before, the first prisoner of the ICC, Thomas Lubanga, has been held in hostage for 2 weeks right now because he was sent by the government of Kinshasa to conduct a series of consultations between the two groups, trying to bring them again around the table. But unfortunately, we are about to have a breakout of this situation again. If anything happened to this Thomas Lubanga, who is considered one of the big leaders of this HEMA elders group, is still under the control of this militia of Codeco, that they have increased their capacity in the following days. We don't really understand how they are getting this capacity, how they have been able to defeat even some of the DRC army in different positions where population are totally right now exposed without any security protection.
Alain, this was actually going to be my next question. Do we know who is giving them support, whether it's military resources or intelligence, but also how difficult your job must be as journalists on reporting on all of these factions, these groups that keep on growing, and if there's any legitimate reason for the wanton killings that you're seeing in this area.
It's very easy to understand how armed groups have been in this area since, as I mentioned before, since this conflict started. We grew up with this conflict in the area. We have to mention for our people who are watching us to understand that Jugu area, or this Ituri area, is one of the, as you mentioned yourself, it's one of the rich area in rich province, among the rich province of the DRC, with a reserve of gold. And this area of Jugu is especially the area which is right now, the most of the gold areas are under the control of this militia, Codeco militia. And also, we are in the border, the Ituri region, we have border with different countries like Uganda, for example. We have also Sudan, South Sudan. We have a border with different, also with Central African Republic. This
All right, I think unfortunately we have lost our connection to Alain there, and it's such a pity because we're really gleaning some information from him about Codeco and why there seems to be escalating tensions. Alain Oyakani is a Congolese journalist speaking to us about the latest attacks in Ituri region of the DRC.